Well, hey, everybody. I'm excited on this maiden voyage of Faith in Franchising vlog and podcast. And I'm on here today with one of my favorite people. Chris Gothi and I will be the hosts, co-hosts of this podcast and vlog. So you'll hear from either both of us or one of us going forward. We're excited about faithinfranchising.com. We go ahead and send you right now to the website as you listen. But Chris is an expert in small business coaching and consulting, but specifically in franchise ownership and development. So today we're just going to kind of get launched out here. So Chris, how you doing, man? Where are you sitting today?
And I'm in beautiful downtown Toccoa, Georgia,
All right.
on the Georgia side of Lake Hartwell. It's
Tell me
great.
about what's the foliage look like up there this time of year? This is
Yeah,
October, November today, I guess.
this has
October.
got to be the peak week. I'm driving into work this morning. The leaves were changing. It's about as good as I've seen it. So we're either in peak week or approaching it.
That's wonderful. I've been up at your place and love it. Love the view off the back of your dock, man. And by the way, just for our listeners, I'm just going to bring them into this conversation. But Nancy and I watched Thursday night for the very first time the Mulligan movie that you
Oh,
were a part
nice.
of, and it was filmed right up there. Tell the viewers, because they need and our listeners about the movie, because I think they would be enchanted by the idea and where it was videoed.
Yeah, so it was videoed here in Toccoa, Georgia, which ironically is a wonderful place for movie shooting in Georgia. You know, Georgia's got some great state tax laws that make movie production really attractive here. Well, this movie company found North Georgia, found Currahee Club, found Toccoa, Georgia, and they shot this really cool golf movie up here called The Mulligan, and it's about a parable of second chances, right? So
Yeah.
for those of you who are golfers in the community, and it featured Eric Close and Pat Boone, and it was really fun to shoot. In fact, I checked off a bucket list item. We did an after party essentially with Pat. Pat flew back down. We honored him with a dinner with about 120 people. And I asked him a couple of days before, could I play guitar for him? And he said, well, sure. What do you want to play? I said, I'll play anything, man, just to play for Pat Boone, who was like, the crooner from the 50s that every girl wanted to date,
Yeah.
and and I got to play April Love for him to about a group of about 120
Oh,
people.
wow.
And it
Yeah.
was awesome, man. It was like, check that bucket list. It was awesome.
Well, that's a great story. And by the way, our newfound listeners and followers in Faith in Franchising, you're going to find out that Chris and I are not only best friends, but we've got a lot of stories we can tell. And I think that's been one of our successes as not only executive coaches, but as franchise advisors. Is, man, we love people, and we love to get into the journey with them.
Yep.
And that's what we're told, is that people like to talk to us. We're easy to get to know, aren't we? We're not putting on any airs, are we?
No, it kind of is what it is with us.
Yeah. So for this first episode, I told Chris I'm going to just launch a question here, and it's a big balloon I'm going to float for those of you that just have a little bit of interest in owning your own business or a franchise. So let me just ask it this way: why would a couple or a person consider maybe escaping from corporate life or institutional life and owning their own business, and more specifically, investing in a franchise, Chris?
Yeah. So the first part of that question, one of the themes that I hear all the time is I'm tired of working for somebody else. I'm tired of somebody else controlling my schedule. I'm tired of somebody else controlling my pay. I'm tired of traveling all the time. These are all the reasons why somebody would leave and want to launch at their own business. I also hear from time to time, my wife and I have a dream and we want to fulfill that dream if we can. So that's more of a positive motivator than a negative one. But those are some of the reasons why someone would want to leave, right? It's the American dream, but it's also the dream of a lot of young men and women, young couples that want to try to get out there and make it with their idea and their dream. They can see, it's almost like they've got vision and they can see themselves doing this and traveling together as a family. It's a wonderful way to do it. The second part of your question had to do with the franchise versus starting another business. And Rick, you and I've done it both ways, right? So you have bought a franchise or two. I've started a business or two, and there's advantages and disadvantages really to both. But I personally prefer the franchise model primarily because you don't have to reinvent the wheel. In the franchise world, there's a saying that what we want you to do is follow the plan, follow the process, follow the system. So here you've got an organization that's already figured it out, already come up with all of the processes and procedures and pieces of a business operation. All you have to do is buy in and execute and deliver their products or services in your community. So that's the real advantage that owning a franchise has over starting something from scratch.
Yeah, there's a couple of great things you said there. I can't remember if it was Peter Drucker, but it was one of the gurus of management leadership said that a good system's better than any great leader.
Yeah, no doubt.
So that's what you're saying is that the proven systems takes away at least a lot of the risk, and the system has been run enough before it would ever become a franchise. So that's the differentiator. Obviously, we're in America and we know the great entrepreneurs of our country. We have a fertile ground for starting a business from scratch. It's not a franchise, so there's nothing wrong with it. There's plenty of family businesses that have lasted. I tell a story of, with all the changes, Walgreens is still 150-year-old, kind of a family-owned company, and they keep reinventing themselves. So that's the startup side of it. The franchise side of it is just you're running a system that's proven.
And and you said risk, and this is an interesting stat, but lending, if you follow lending, you can check what's called a success rate or a failure rate. And lenders always lean toward financing a franchise before they do a startup because of what you just described. A franchised business already has a successful model that they can prove in franchise documents that it is successful, that as long as they get the right people to buy in, they'll execute that success model in their communities. A lot less risk for everybody.
Yeah, that's awesome. There's another thing you said early in your narrative is some people, we just want to be free for something, and others want to be free from something. One of our first vlogs, we talked about that, but share that with our first-time listeners with Faith in Franchising is what could we be free for if we owned our own business?
Yeah, well, you know what really kind of exposed this, Rick, was COVID. I mean, when COVID hit and people were like face to face with the prospect of maybe I won't live forever, all of a sudden it started bringing real clarity to what are the things I love, what are the things I hate, what are the things I want to do with the rest of my life, however much I've got left. So COVID was just one of the things that brought some clarity to that decision. So I've watched it, right? I've watched people take a lot more risk to start their own business after that because they said, I don't ever want to be in that position again where somebody else can put me on the sidelines financially and put my whole family at risk because of a nationwide shutdown or whatever.
Right. And of course, you're also speaking to that other risk is that I'm free from being trapped. I'm free from traffic. I'm freed from an organization that's toxic. I'm freed from a culture I don't really like, but they pay my household bills. So we'll have at least a podcast or two or video just about that.
Mhm.
And if anyone hearing us for the first time, there is a vlog out there. You can go to Rick Forbus YouTube, but you also will be able to see that our first video together was very well received. We talked about finances, freedom, and fulfillment in our first vlog, and that will be on this website as well. So you might want to go back and visit that video. Now, I want to ask you one other thing for this episode, and that's some people that have no knowledge of franchises. There are 3 models of franchise ownership. So give us your best flyover summary of what that looks like.
Yeah, so to set this up, Rick, you and I, when we talk to candidates about franchise purchases, we look for great alignment. And we look for alignment in 3 areas, operationally, financially, and culturally. Well, the operational alignment, which is what you're referring to, actually has 3 types of operating alignments. And those are owner-operator, semi-passive, and purely passive. And good examples of those might be a purely passive franchise purchase would be a Sports Clips franchise, where you'd buy 5 sports clips, put them in locations. You're never going to cut hair. You're never going to manage a store. You're going to probably get a Gantt chart or a spreadsheet once a week, once a month to run your business. That's purely passive. On the other end of that spectrum is owner-operator. This is the one we're all most familiar with, right? Where you buy a business and you give 100% of your life and time and energy and effort to run it and operate it. Then you've got that hybrid in the middle where you're kind of semi-passive, where you might have a general manager or a director, somebody to run that business for you day to day, but you're going to be in and out and have hands in certain roles. That's kind of the 3 operating models.
That's great ideas for people to think about. One of the episodes that we will record, we'll interview some of these different models, owners and operators that we know, and we'll let them talk about the family aspect of having a family franchise, or just the investor aspect of someone who's just trying to invest and watch franchises grow as a passive model, but then selling them as an investment. So there'll be a lot of conversation we can have. I'm going to tell you something, listeners and those that are viewing. We're different. I mean, we've talked about that. Our style is we love people. We enjoy talking, telling stories, hearing your story. And I want to go ahead on this first episode of Faith in Franchising, this podcast and the blog. And I'm going to tell you 2 things we're going to give you. One is, and you'll see an email pop up on the video, and we'll give you this email in the setup of the audio podcast of where you can get a hold of us. But I'm going to give you, Chris and I wrote a book, an ebook called The 10 Questions That Every Franchise Owner Prospect asks. We'll send you that for free. But also, we will give you an assessment to see what kind of match you would be for a franchise. We have a great partner with this assessment, and we can tell what kind of owner you really, your behaviors tell you that you are. It's got a lot of information. That's 2 free things, and we'll tell you how to do that. You'll see that on the graphics of the video, and also we'll have it in the podcast setup, so you'll see that. So, guests, we thank you so much for listening to our maiden voyage with Faith in Franchising. You'll see assets grow on our Faith in Franchising website. Chris, give us one good word before we sign off today, man. Great job in answering my questions.
Thank you. One good word. So, Faith in Franchising, obviously, as the name represents, Rick and I are both men of faith, and we think there's a lot of faith walking and faith stepping when it comes to making good business decisions. The thought I'm going to leave you with is something that I got from Tony Evans, who's a great pastor out of Dallas, Texas. He said that we have to remember that God is our source and everything else is a resource. So when you're looking at buying a business, you're not buying a source for revenue or income, you're buying a resource. God is our ultimate source. Everything else is a resource.
Man, that is really good. one thing that Faith in Franchising does, listeners, is it's kind of filtering down these franchise brands you'll see on there are already been vetted. We've already taken time. They have the core values that you have. So we look forward to getting to know you better. And thank you for your time today. Blessings, everybody. See you, Chris, soon.
See you, Ricky.
Bye.